If you don't know who this is, you're lucky. Against my better judgment.
All right, I was going to wait till tomorrow to do a follow up on this to give some for the people who actually are being decent about this, some clarity. Well, people on YouTube are so mad. I thought you'd take like a day to get that angry, not a whole 15 minutes. Oh my God, you're probably picking up so many crumbs out of the carpet as you're foaming at the mouth. So yeah, sometimes I make videos for myself. Y'all, I don't really care. Second of all, no, I don't really respect Ross or his position. And so, no, I don't want to anchor to that. And that's what we're going to talk about right now is anchoring. Because what Ross has done is he is anchored to the idea that his initiatives are the only way to talk about game preservation and keeping them playable after end of life are two separate things, oddly, if you think about it, right? But he has made it that his is the only way. And if you're against that, you hate the number 3, right? You hate games, right? So he is the 1 + 1 = 3. He is saying this is the only way to do this. And because he's anchored to that. And he's anchored to that if I speak out against the initiative and in any ways or talk about any of the details of it, you guys instantly jump to Chet hates games, Chet hates, right? I can't have that conversation. Even though I have a bunch of experience in this and a bunch of knowledge about this and a bunch of the negativity of what will happen in this space, I can't say that because you will instantly jump to that, right? I'm a corporate shill, according to the latest comment. So I can't have that conversation about it. Nobody can, because Ross has removed that because he has anchored it to that he is the only person who can do this, and this is the only way there's these initiatives, and that's simply just not true, right? There's preservation societies. Wonder why Valve used to do, when I was there, all the VR events at a society that talked about the preservation of PC gaming. Yeah, wacky. There's a whole bunch of things like that, but that's about preservation of it, right? Not active playing of it, right? But if you talk about active playing of it, you're talking about a lot noisier of a situation. And if you play modern games, you understand that really well. So if you play Call of Duty, you know, I can never remember the name of the game what I really like. Was it PD? It was that one game mode they had that I really liked for a little bit. They took it away, but I know that's the deal with them, right? That's just the way they work. Every year it's something new. So if I was watching Choco Taco play Scum, because I was kind of curious, like, where's that game? That game's radically changed from what it was about. So should you be able to get that version that you wanted to play and not the one? Like, I had somebody in my comments talk about for my game, the Anacrusis, which we've opened up to the community, build servers and access to Perforce, but it has to be a controlled situation because there's a whole bunch of legality around it. We have talked about that and had somebody be like, well, you should just let them all fork it. Everyone should be able to fork their own version of the game and then they should be able to connect and play. No, that doesn't work that way. And then we just talk about accessibility. Like if you really want to make it, right, again, preservation is almost the easy one. Because you can understand what a museum is and you can understand how you can do that. And I donate to those things right now. But making it accessible to play is a lot harder if you think about it, because when is that version of that? And then what does access look like? Who's giving access? How does that work? How does matchmaking work? Or otherwise, and this is why I think, what's-his-face kept calling them single-player games, because that's what you're making. Because you are removing matchmaking, because matchmaking is a service, and matchmaking is a service that relies on some back end. Either it is a legal back end, Steam, and you have the legal relationship with it, and so that's why you're able to use it, or Epic, or you have some kind of server or something, right? Someone needs to run that. And, that's something I've talked about with my own game, is we used to have a back end server that mitigated all of that. And I was worried that if our company went under, that would mean the game would be unplayable. So I spent money out of my own pocket to make it into a place where, at least as long as if Steam's up, it will work. So yes, I very much know what I'm talking about in this situation, and I understand the practicalities of it. Am I an expert on it? No. Even though I have done all this stuff, I don't consider myself an expert on it, because there are people who are experts on this. But that's why the argument about his point of view is arguing like, hey, I want to make ice, so I'm going to poop in the sink. And you're like, how do I start the argument there? You don't. And so I'm not going to engage in that. I'm not going to go over some fine details of his proposal, because it's the wrong way to approach what he's trying to approach. Again, you can do societies of preservation. You could do threaten boycotts. Work with publishers and make sure there's a landing place and let sure they know there's a community that wants to have those, right? Like, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do it, but none of those would have been this, and none of those could have been him the center of attention. And so that's where you get the 1 + 1 = 3 versus, hey, step back, ignore everything and close your eyes and go, if this is the goal, how do we approach this, right? And this is something I talk about a lot with developers. You get lost in the weeds and you get anchored to this idea and you think that's the only way we can complete something. And it's simply not true. And that this way is failing demonstrates that, right? That's not me. I didn't force it to fail. Ross forced it to fail. He chose the wrong path for the goal that he wanted. And now he's blaming everybody except for himself, of saying, this is the wrong path. What I'm asking for isn't attainable, isn't sensible, and isn't a way that is going to gain traction. Right? He gets very mad at gamers. And those are the people who like 7 and 10 and all these other things as well, right? Because they're allowed to like and buy what they want. We have consumer choice now. They can choose to do that. And they are. And he's mad about that. He doesn't want them to be able to play those games. Those games should not exist. Look at my kitties over there. Right? But again, you're going to tell me I'm wrong there and then go some detail and I got to watch some. I don't give a fuck. I don't. I'm saying the whole thing is anchored wrong. And it makes no sense. And if you didn't like my analogy, I don't really care. You could say it's confusing. I said it was confusing. That's why I used hats. And come on, a nacho cheese hat? That hat was filled with nacho cheese. It's like blessing from the Pope in my eyes. But yeah, I don't know what to tell you. But if you care about preserving games, there's some societies out there working on it. You can go look them up. I would not pick favorites. Right, because there's also early computing in general. And there's different countries have actually different versions. And the computer museum in Seattle sadly closed. But there's those. Or forming a group to petition the publishers, to talk with publishers, to work with publishers, right? There's a whole bunch of ways to do this. Or do you just hate games and you're just nothing but a corporate shill? Because that's what you're going to tell me, because I don't think 1 + 1 = 3.